once was a Jarl who was incredibly vain. He loved his fine clothes more than anything in the world, and often neglected his duties in favor of finding and purchasing new outfits. He had a coat for every hour of the day, which he loved to parade before the people.
Get out of the Jarl's way. Get.
One day, two scheming criminals made their way to the hold. They claimed they could weave exquisite clothes in the most beautiful colors and designs. Their clothing was so spectacular, in fact, that it was invisible to fools and anyone unfit for the position they held. They presented something to the Jarl and said,
"Your Majesty, to a wise man, this is a radiant raiment, but to a fool, it is absolutely invisible."
Yet in truth, there was nothing there. Naturally, the Jarl, not wanting to appear a fool, said,
"Those would be just the clothes for me. If I wore them, I would be able to discover who in my empire is unfit for their posts, and I could tell the wise men from the fools. I insist, you tailors make me a new outfit, just like this one, but more magnificent, and as quickly as possible. One, fit for a Jarl."
Who took up looms that winter dawn, and to solitude came, to catch out fools with runic spools, or die in fashion's name. Who wove upon the wheel that hour, and answered the Jarl's call. Men tailor-born both came that morn, with magic hammers all. Rise, rise for fashion, rise, arise, all men shall know my glory. Ride, ride on the raiders, ride, win the worship of my slaves.
The Jarl paid them handsomely, but in reality, the tailors did no work at all. They asked for splendid materials like silver weave and spider silk, but merely took them for themselves. While they pretended they were hard at work, they asked for sweet rolls and pies and slept in lavish beds in the Jarl's longhouse, while they pretended to toil away on empty looms far into the night. Eventually, the Jarl wanted to see how his clothes were coming along, so he sent his housecarl to check instead.
How can this be possible? The tailors are working at empty tables.
The housecarl remembered that only fools could not see the clothing. She did not think herself a fool, so she lied and told the tailors,
"And now I see this brilliant weave where fools would see none. The fabric bright with magic's light, for with magic it was spun. So bring the court to view the gown, and let their sight proclaim. Those fools will yield what might they wield, all in the Jarl's name. Rise, rise for fashion, rise, arise, ye Nordic sons and daughters. Ride, ride on Lord's ride, to learn the wisdom of those names."
The Jarl sent his court mage and steward to check as well, and neither of them saw anything either, but pretended they did. They assured the Jarl the outfit was spectacular.
The cut is fine, so to the line. The Jarl is so wise. The warp to see, the weft, maybe it is magic to our eyes.
Soon the tailors announced their work was complete. The Jarl went to see for himself. When he arrived, he was shocked to find that he saw nothing at all. The tailors displayed the empty table and asked if he was pleased with the result.
I adore it.
The Jarl, too afraid to admit the truth, told the tailors he would wear it straight away. He undressed and allowed them to pantomime the act of putting his clothes on him. They were meticulous and even secured the imaginary robe around his neck. Then he called in his retinue to admire his new clothes. Each of them were surprised to see the Jarl standing as naked as a horker before them, but all were too ashamed to admit it. They fawned over his new clothes, insisting he display them for his populace.
Who stands before the throng this hour and answers to wisdom's call? Men Skyrim born on this morn for the greatest Jarl of all. Rise, rise, O mountain, rise, arise, homage and glory, O glory. Rise, rise, O Lord and Son, who in the worship of the day.
So he did just that. He proudly marched down the road as his people gathered. Hundreds saw he was naked, but were too afraid to admit it. Everyone in the streets and windows said, "Oh, how fine are the Jarl's new clothes! Don't they fit him to perfection? And see his long train!" Nobody would confess they couldn't see anything, lest they be called fools or worse. That was until a child stepped out to look. You see, he hadn't heard about the magic suit and didn't know what he was supposed to see. Well, as the Jarl came by, the little boy boldly exclaimed,
The Jarl's naked!
Then the crowd stopped pretending. They began to laugh and point. The Jarl, mortified, ran back to his longhouse. The Jarl searched high and low for the two so-called tailors, but they were already gone, riches and all. So children of this Nordic land, ye best remember well, you knew the truth, ignored the proof, for the swindlers fell. From men of the north a mere child stood forth, and broke the Jarl's spell. So the Jarl instead sought out his housecarl, court mage, and steward for their failure to stop the swindlers from making a fool of him, and chopped off their heads personally with a very real and very solid axe.